Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's speaker event, Korean Dream, Leading the Next Generation Toward Reunification, which is proudly co-hosted by the Alliance for Korea United, Liberty in North Korea at UCLA, and the UCLA Korean American Student Association. My name is Namshik Yu. I'm the Director of Youth Programs at Alliance for Korea United, and I am honored to be your moderator for tonight's event. We're incredibly honored and to have a very special guest joining us live from South Korea, Miss Joo-hyun Kim, a North Korean escapee who is using her story and voice to empower fellow young North Koreans and advocate for Korean reunification. And so, like all of you here today, I'm very eager to hear her story. So here's how tonight will go. We'll begin with the short introductions from our co-organizers. We'll then move into our main conversation with Joo-hyun. And then after that, we'll open it up live for Q&A, where all of you here can ask our guest speaker questions directly. Just a few quick notes before we start. All attendees will remain muted until the Q&A session. That's just to keep things running smoothly. But feel free to drop your questions or comments at any time in the chat box, and we'll pick some up for the discussion later. If you can, I just want to ask everyone to please turn on your cameras so our speaker can see you. She's making this time to speak with all of us here, and so it really makes this occasion much more engaging and personal. You can also use the official Zoom background that you see some of us here using, and I believe that link was posted in the chat as well. So to kick things off, we're going to start with a very quick poll to get everyone here engaged. You'll see three short questions pop up on your screens about your age, what brought you here tonight, and how familiar you are with the issues on North Korea and Korean reunification. And so everyone here, just please take a few seconds to fill that out. Okay, looks like we have a good amount coming in. And yeah, you can be very honest. This is just to, get just to kind of see the picture of who's here and get everyone here engaged. So we'll give a few more seconds for everyone to fill those out. Okay, I think that's good. All right, so to start us off, I'd like to first introduce the co-president of Liberty in North Korea, Link at UCLA, Benjamin Lim. Link has been truly a leading voice in raising awareness about North Korean human rights, and the UCLA team has been leading that charge on their campus very proudly, and they've been working really hard through speaker events, fundraisers, all sorts of activities to push for freedom for the North Korean people. So let's all give a warm welcome to Benjamin from UCLA.
Hello, I'm Benjamin. I go by Ben. I'm one of the co-presidents for Liberty in North Korea at UCLA. Just basically to describe what Link is. So Liberty in North Korea, there's an official nonprofit organization that's under the same name. Their goal is to basically help North Korean defectors escape and also resettle once they actually escape North Korea. And to do that, they obviously need funds and donations. And here at Link UCLA, what we try to do is basically raise $3,000 every year, each dollar representing the 3,000-mile journey that they actually take, as you could see on the slides. And besides that, we also want to try and change the narrative surrounding North Korea, because usually when you hear about North Korea, you usually think of nuclear weapons, maybe the politics, Kim Jong-un definitely, and overall just a lot of focus outside of the North Korean people and their stories. We want to try and change that so that one day people, when they hear about North Korea, they don't just think about the things I mentioned, and instead they focus more on the North Korean people and their stories, like we're going to do today. So thank you. So basically, obviously, the fundraising aspect, we also want to raise awareness and overall just linking minds, through socializing, through just having social events, through weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings where we discuss specific topics like North Korean education, how North Koreans escape, the economy there, and just their daily lives to try and bring more light into what their livelihoods are. And then we also have our own speaker events like we did 2, 3 weeks ago with our advocacy fellows. We're definitely looking forward to having more in the future as well. Yeah. So as mentioned, our annual goal is $3,000. They need the $3,000 after escaping, but also they need it to escape China to reach safety. Many refugees do not have the actual resources, obviously, because even after you escape North Korea, you're pretty much alone, and there's a lot of trust issues with trying to find people you can actually trust and who to rely on to escape in a foreign country. And also, disregard that note, we already had our Spam Musubi fundraiser a while back, and in which we raised over $200. We're also planning to do a boba fundraiser next week after our socials. So if you're willing to stop by and hear us talk about North Korean topics and also grab boba with us, feel free to. Okay. And like I said, we need to redefine North Korea. Nuclear weapons and Kim Jong-un make for exciting headlines, but that narrative makes North Korea seem hopeless and unchanging and leaves us feeling kind of powerless. You know, you hear about these big figures, but you don't really hear about common folk like us. So we want to help North Korean people share their stories with the world. And obviously, through speaker events and in meeting discussions, we hope to support the North Korean people's voices and facilitate conversations focusing on human rights and the refugee situation. Yeah. And overall, we want everyone to become an ally, in response for human rights, for North Korean people, and just to be supportive in general. And we also want to, make this a casual sort of club, but at the same time, we learn about sort of educational and heavy human rights topics. Because obviously, as college students, there's a lot of academic stress in our lives. So we don't want to really have this be another thing to add on to your like to-do list or duties and responsibilities. We want people to learn more, but also do it out of, not out of obligation, but because people want to for a better future.
Okay, thank you so much, Ben, for giving that short, brief presentation on Link, and just the amazing work that you guys have been doing this school year. And you mentioned the Advocacy Fellows speaker event where you had North Korean defectors from South Korea come and speak. And so, yeah, as a former proud member of Link at UCLA, I applaud your efforts and the work that your team has been doing. And yes, so thank you so much. And for the people here today, if you want to learn more about Link UCLA and how to get involved, keep an eye on the chat for links to follow them. We also want to thank UCLA CASA for co-sponsoring tonight's event. And so to all the CASA members that are here, the link to your attendance form will also be shared in the chat as well. So I'd like to now briefly introduce the Alliance for Korea United, who we are, what is our mission, and how we are trying to really advance a free and unified Korea. We'll start with a short 1-minute intro video.
세상은 하나일 때가 아름답다. 원래 하나였던 것들은 다시 하나로 만나야 한다. 모두가 함께 꾸는 꿈이 한반도 통일이 되기를. 원더풀 원 코리아. 널리 세상을 이롭게 하는 통일국가의 꿈, 코리안 드림.
Yes, so that is really what we are aiming to do is reuniting Korea that has always been one, but is no longer one for the past 80 years. This year, 2025, already marking 80 years since Korean Liberation Day, which was a moment that had symbolized hope for a free, independent, and unified Korea. That dream, however, being cut short as Cold War powers had split the peninsula at the 30th parallel. And for 8 long decades, the Korean people have lived divided, not by choice, but really by force. Uh, Today, we see around 25 million North Koreans still live under one of the most oppressive regimes, facing surveillance, censorship, and widespread human rights violations. Millions of Korean families remain separated, unable to call, visit, or even know if their loved ones are alive. And this isn't merely just a Korean issue. North Korea's growing nuclear program and weapons trade affect global peace and security. So, really, what happens on the Korean Peninsula will have global implications. So, what is the way forward? We believe that it starts with a vision called the Korean Dream. Coined by Dr. Hyunjin Preston Moon, the Korean Dream is about fulfilling the Korean people's shared aspiration, which is to reunite and build a nation that's rooted in freedom, human rights, and Korea's founding ideal of Hongik Ingan, which means to benefit all humanity. Many people misinterpret reunification isn't just simply a political goal, but it's really about reuniting a divided family, freeing those in the North, and also building a new Korea that can stand as a model of hope and peace for the rest of the world. As history has shown, though, governments alone cannot make this kind of transformation happen, which is why Action for Korea United was created in South Korea, which is a grassroots movement for unification that's now made up of over 1,000 civic organizations. Here in the US, we are part of that effort through the Alliance for Korea United, mobilizing Korean Americans, students, and global allies, people like all of you here today, to really stand for a free and unified Korea. Over the past year, we launched the Korean Dream Campus Campaign, a new initiative that we started to really spark this conversation with university students. This past school year, we held 11 events, both online and in person, at leading universities including Stanford, Princeton, Emory, UCLA, UC Berkeley, as well as the University of Chicago. And it's really been amazing for me to see how curious and passionate students are about the future of the Korean Peninsula, which is really proof that your voice can make a difference. And we're just getting started. We want to reach more campuses, engage more students, and really grow this youth-led movement for a free and unified Korea. Our goal is to inspire and equip the next generation of leaders to carry this vision forward. And we have today a simple but powerful way that all of you can join us today. It is our ongoing Korean Dream signature campaign, which is a global call for peace and reunification. If you haven't participated before, I just want to ask all of you guys to take out your phone, quickly scan the QR code that you see on the screen. It takes less than a minute. All you have to do is enter your name, your email, your country of residence, and then click the submit button. And just like that, you've joined tens of thousands around the world standing for one Korea. Because we really believe that the Korean dream starts with awareness, with people like you who are choosing to act. And so I just want to say thank you so much for being here tonight, for being part of this conversation. If you'd like to learn more and get engaged with our work at AKU, we will drop a few links in the chat box below. So now I'm thrilled to introduce tonight's guest speaker, Ms. Joo-hyun Kim. Joo-hyun was born in North Korea. She studied in Russia and later resettled in South Korea in pursuit of freedom. Her firsthand experience of life under a totalitarian regime and her escape have driven her to become a passionate advocate for human rights and Korean reunification. She's the founder and current leader of the National Committee of North Korean Defectors under Action for Korea United, where she is working to empower defectors and amplify their voices nationwide. Joo-hyun has also engaged in various international youth leadership initiatives, including the Korea Young Leaders Assembly, KYLA, really promoting awareness and solidarity among youth for a unified Korea. And at the forefront of the Korean Dream movement, Juyeon is committed to building a free and unified Korea. She hopes her story can really inspire action toward lasting peace and reconciliation. So we're honored to have her with us tonight. Just a quick note, we will be having live interpretation provided by Mr. Chung Deok-kyu, our AKU volunteer, who is also based in South Korea. So if you'd like to hear the English translation, please click on the interpretation icon below and select English. And so that way you'll be able to hear the English translation live. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Ms. Juyeon Kim, our guest speaker, joining us live from South Korea. Juyeon, thank you so much for joining us. For those meeting you for the first time, could you just briefly introduce yourself, where you're from, what you're currently doing right now, and maybe share one fun fact about yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Juhyun Kim. I work for Action for Korea United here in South Korea. I was born in North Korea and spent my childhood there before studying abroad in Russia. Currently, I'm living in South Korea, together working with fellow North Korean defectors for unification. Fun fact about me is, although I may look calm, I'm a very active person. I love meeting new people, having conversations with them, especially sharing ideas related to Korea unification. Those discussions give me a lot of energy. Recently, I participate in activities such as Korea Young Leaders Assembly with the young people in Indonesia, and also Japan Young Leaders Assembly with the young people of Japan, together to spread the vision of the Korean dream and strengthen global cooperation for peace here on the Korean Peninsula. Through these efforts, I hope to share the value of unification with the young people around the world and build a peaceful future together.
Awesome. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. And yes, you are really busy and active in really wanting to promote awareness, and that's really great. And considering your age and also how long it's been since you resettled in South Korea, really using the freedom that you have attained now to promote this kind of work for the future of the Korean Peninsula is very honorable. So thank you for the work that you're doing. So you shared earlier that you grew up in what many would consider to be an elite family in North Korea and had also later spent part of your childhood in Russia. I'm just curious to know, what was life like in both places, and how did those experiences shape your worldview?
Yes, I grew up in what so-called an elite family in North Korea. While that status did provide me opportunities, it also came with constant anxiety. The higher one's social standing is in North Korea, the more you have to prove the loyalty to the North Korean regime. And a singlest careless word could determine one's family's fate. So outwardly, did seem stable, but in the inside, it was really filled with a lot of fear and tension. Later, when I spent part of my childhood studying in Russia, I experienced true freedom for the first time. People spoke and acted freely. There was no atmosphere of suspicion. And that's when I first realized, oh, people can actually live such lives. The contrast between these two worlds completely changed my perspective. From North Korea, I learned what it means to live under a system. But in Russia, I learned the value of freedom. So those experiences really made me understand that freedom and human dignity are the foundation of any just society.
Wow, yeah, and I'm sure you were able to experience that kind of contrast being in Russia versus growing up in North Korea. And yeah, in terms of like what you're saying, I think it's kind of very easy to look at it that way, like experiencing what it means to live in a system versus living in freedom. And I know that you had brought a few photos that you wanted to share with us to give just kind of rare glimpse into everyday life in North Korea. Maybe you can also share those as well and briefly just talk about what those photos represent.
So the photo you are currently looking on the screen was taken quite recently. So this was taken near the Pyongyang's Victory Station subway station in North Korea. So you can see the water, the fountain around. But even these kind of like water coming out, it doesn't really happen often. But since recently it was the 80th anniversary of the People's Party in North Korea, there's a lot of foreign tourists. They kind of showcase these kind of external things since the tourists are present during that event. Next slide, please. This is a photo of a young child taking a bath. In North Korea, since there is lack of water, when the water is available, you store as much as you can. But as you can see, in the back of the top part of the photo, you can see the water is very gray and very dark. This photo is from the capital, Pyongyang, but even the capital, um, people who live in the capital have access to water with bad quality. And even for young kids taking a bath for young kids, they have to use this kind of low quality of water. Next slide, please. So recently North Korea, they are more actively opening the doors for Russian tourists. And if you go to areas where there's a lot of Russian tourists, they sell this kind of medicine as a souvenir. So selling medical products as a souvenir, it was quite shocking. But apparently this product is supposed to help with the immune system. So in North Korea, they do advertise the development of medicine. So they try to also include it as a tourist package. Next slide. So during the uh, time of colonization from Japan, um, North Korea preserves this kind of revolutionary historic sites. So the photo on the left, it was a photo that was taken to explain a site related to the countering Japan's colonialism. The photo on the right is a photo in the gate of a factory, a photo of Kim Jong-un. So back in the days, these photos were usually of Kim Il-sung or um, Kim Jong-il, but now as Kim Jong-un is in power, you can see the photos of Kim Jong-un on these factories. Next slide. Another tourist item, the Taedonggang beer, Taedong River beer is quite famous in North Korea. But the photo you see is from the Rason tourism area promoting black beer made from the Tuman River. And near the Tuman River, North Korea opened up a new beer factory, a brewery to produce black beer. But as you see closely of the photos, because you can see that the explanation of this product is in Russian because this product was targeting Russian tourists. So the explanation is not in the Korean language, but in Russian, so that the Russian tourists they can sell these products to the Russian tourists.
Hey, wow. Thank you so much for sharing with all of us some of these photos. It's not, it's kind of rare to be able to get this kind of glimpse of what North Korea is like, the things that they're selling as souvenir packages. And so this is really, really insightful, really awesome to see. So thank you for sharing those photos. So um, the next question I had was at some point, although, you grew up in this elite family, you had realized that even that privilege couldn't overcome the lack of freedom in North Korea. And what I'm curious about is what led you to make the decision to leave? And how were you able to convince your parents to join you in escaping?
So my decision to escape North Korea was a rather unique realization. I had the opportunity to study abroad in Russia, which gave me the time to compare North Korea with the rest of the world. Especially during academic conferences, I noticed that um, during that conference, there were also students coming from South Korea as well. And since I was giving I need to give presentations as a North Korean student, but during that process, many questions that I received from the professors was why North Korea is invested in nuclear weapons development, why North Korea is in a poverty state. So, in other words, I was, it felt like I was there not to showcase or present my academic foundings, but to justify the North Korean system. So, being able to speak a foreign language, many people want to become a diplomat, and a true diplomat can really do their responsibility when they have a stable background of their nation. But in North Korea, a from North Korea, one must always beg for help in a position of weakness. So I realized that privilege and elite status doesn't mean anything in society without freedom. That is why I told my parents that uh, North Korea can never become a prosperous nation this way. And even if we devote our lives to the loyalty of this regime, nothing will change. So we should live as free people instead. So gratefully, my parents agreed. So although the path is very dangerous, we decided to escape together as a family. So the route coming to South Korea for me um, was we chose the safest route we could choose. So what we did was we boarded a Korean Air flight to South Korea using a North Korean passport. So although it may seem like a dangerous way, it was actually the safest way to do so. So I remember that day boarding that airline was the most frightening yet most liberating moment of my life.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met Juhyun, which was about a year ago, and I asked, I was asking this question in terms of, what it was like escaping, and I was, just very fascinated, but also surprised to hear that actually she was the one to really lead the way to convince her parents to escape, and then explaining that whole journey and route of leaving, boarding with North Korean passports. Yeah, it's anything could happen in terms of Russian authorities taking coming in, and sending them back, like what we're seeing right now happening a lot in China. So we are glad that it was a successful escape and that you are now in South Korea. So yeah, thanks so much for just sharing that story with all of us. After escaping, you know, you had to, like many North Korean defectors, you had to start over in a completely different society in South Korea. So how was that adjustment like to, live in South Korea? And what were some of the challenges, some of the opportunities that you had encountered when you were pursuing your education and new life in South Korea?
Uh, the life I lived after escaping North Korea was entering a completely new world for me. Above all, I was very joyful to study freely, something that I never experienced before. Because of that, initially adapting to South Korea society wasn't as difficult as many people would think. Still, there was that type of sadness because I could no longer see my friends and relatives in North Korea. And it was hurtful to know that I couldn't share this type of freedom that I had found in South Korea. But this kind of sense also gradually gave a clear direction in my life. So I began to ask myself, when unification does happen, what kind of nation should we build? And in order to find the question to that answer, I chose to study public administration. And now in graduate school, I'm doing researches on the North Korea legal and administrative systems, exploring the administrative foundations that is necessary for stability in society after unification. Beyond my studying, I'm also uh, I'm also working for organization called AKU, Action for Korea United, to together with the North Korean defectors visiting Indonesia, Japan, really um, promoting this global teamwork, considerate of the Korean dream and unification. So for me, escaping North Korea was just leaving a country, but it was really about beginning to prepare for a new shared future as one Korean people.
Oh, yes. And the fact that you are able to, with other fellow young North Korean defectors, North Korean leaders, not just promoting this work in South Korea, but going to places like Indonesia, like Japan, to advocate for a free, unified Korea, just goes to show, how global this work is and the role that you're playing in terms of empowering youth to be involved in this grassroots movement. So that's really fascinating. The next question I had was just last month in October, North Korea marked the 80th anniversary of the Workers' Party with massive state celebrations. They had huge mobilizations, especially of students, and even reports of human rights abuses that happened behind the scenes. Um, would you be able to share a little bit about that and tell us what these kind of celebrations reveal about the use of propaganda and control inside North Korea, and how does that event contrast with how the South commemorated the 80th anniversary of Korean Liberation Day this past August?
So when I was in North Korea, I was a university student, so I also participated in the Grand Mass Games and the Torchlight Parade celebrating the party's founding. So as you can see on the photo, it looks very grand and magnificent, but in reality, this is a political spectacle that is designed to use young people and students as a tool of political propaganda. These preparations begin in January and students are mobilized from March, which is supposed to be when the semester starts. So for about 6 to 8 months, all academic studies are suspended, and the students are forced to gather from early in the morning until dusk at the Mayday Stadium or at Kim Il-sung Square. Next slide. So this is a photo of during the Grand Mass Games. Students have to bring their own meals, eating lunch on the ground uh, during practice. And in the heat of the summer, there are no breaks. And because uh, and although they sell food like ice cream but many people get sick from the food. But even if you're sick, you can't get a rest. So even girls have to attend despite severe menstrual pain. So the youth league who organizes these practices tells us that unless you're about to die, don't even think about skipping practice. And as you can see, the card section, you can see the Korean words, peace and prosperity, heading towards a path of unification. And these kind of background cards are made by the students themselves. So the students who participate in this event, they have to go to the market, have to buy colored paper, and then they have to create they have to design their own card section that is as big as their height. And because these words change, these models change every year the students have to be able to, they need to spend their own money to buy these materials and make these card sections. And some students don't have money, so they have to loan it from other students. And because during this kind of event time, there are many foreign tourists coming to North Korea, they are also forced to wear, uh, not, they're also forced to wear certain shirts and pants and caps with certain colors. But because they have to wear the same white shirt, black pants, white caps every day, some often they have to borrow the clothes from other people because they can't afford it. These kind of mass events, they claim to promote loyalty and unity, but in truth, these are examples of kind of forced obedience where personal freedom and dignity are demolished. Next slide, please. So although in this photo, the students look very orderly, yet they have to wear the same clothes, gather in the same place every day in the heat and practice. So the tears and sacrifices of the students are very hidden. Next slide, please. But on the other hand, during this August 15th, during the 80th anniversary of Korean liberation, I participated in the Korean Dream Han River Festival as one of the organizers for this event. I was deeply moved by how freely and voluntarily people come together to celebrate peace and unity because unlike North Korea's forced celebration, um, what I witnessed here in the Han River in South Korea, it was a genuine festival of freedom and participation. And the comparisons for these two different events is really about whether there's presence or absence of freedom. And I really hope that one day the North Korean youth can also stand on a free stage and express their dreams and passion without any fear.
Wow, that's a really, really great insight into the recent events that have been happening in North Korea. And I think, yeah, as Trihyun was saying, uh, how North Korea really portrays in the media this kind of big event where they have all their people, all the citizens come in unison to try to show that you know the North Korean people are all aligned with the regime. It just goes to show the means that they will use to really propagandize, right? And in contrast, you see in Korea, like the event that Juhyun attended this past summer in August, tens of thousands of South Korean citizens coming on a hot, August summer day to commemorate the 80th anniversary of Korean Liberation Day, commemorating the true meaning of that, and um, those people not coming by force, but by their own will. And so I think that's really the kind of direction that we want to go towards in terms of the future of the Korean Peninsula. So thank you for sharing those photos, Juhyun. And you mentioned that you are working for Action for Korea United, and I wanted to ask you, what inspired you to join AKU, and what does the Korean dream, this vision of a free and unified Korea that's rooted in Hongik Ingan, what does the Korean dream mean to you personally?
North Korea's core ideology is on the revolutionary thought and a single-hearted unity. So the regime upholds these as the absolute truth, forcing everyone to think and act in just one direction. That is why students and young people are mobilized for state events, often at the expense of their education, with no room for independent thought. But no one dares to refuse. And the vision is imposed by the party um, because as it defies both truth and survival. So this enforced unity is not harmony, but forced obedience. And such controlled ideology is what exists in North Korea. But after coming here to South Korea, I'll find my answer in the concept of Korean dream. So the Korean dream, rooted in the principle of 홍익인간, which is to benefit all of humanity, it really centers on the freedom, human rights, peace, and shared prosperity. And to me, it felt that this is the most universal and realistic vision for peace here in the Korean Peninsula. And this kind of conviction led me to join and work for Action for Korea United. What I really learned by working for Action for Korea United, AKU, um, is that by helping the North Korean youth to spread the vision of the Korean dream, that we have the potential to really make this as an international global movement. And as I shared before, in organizing the Korean Dream Han River Festival, I once again witnessed the transformative power of freedom and voluntary participation. That is why I feel that true peace and unification on the Korean Peninsula has to be done not through control, but really through the unity born of empathy and freedom. Um, and that is why uh, this path of freedom and empathy, there has to be a common vision. And that is the clear vision that the Korean dream is promoting.
Yeah, and the fact that you are now devoting your time, your life to this vision of the Korean dream, this mission to bring about peaceful unification, to once and for all finally allow the Korean people to really, fulfill their self-determination after 80 years of division, to become that free, independent, united Korea is really inspiring, and the work is amazing. And so, just thank you for the work that you've been doing, Juhyun, and yes, we hope that this citizen-led movement can grow further and further not just on the Korean Peninsula but across the globe. And so we're honored to be part of that movement here tonight with this event with UCLA. So the final question that I have for you before we go into live Q&A is, what kind of message or hope would you like to share with students here and young leaders who are listening tonight about their role in advancing peace and reunification on the Korean Peninsula?
For those attending today, what I want to say is that the freedom that we currently enjoy is a precious gift that was given based on others' sacrifice. So let's not take this freedom for granted, but really utilize it to build a better world. So I hope that we become that generation that protects the value of freedom, partners in the vision of the Korean dream, strengthening international solidarity and carrying that torch for global peace.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Trihan. Thank you for that call to action, for sharing your story and insights with all of us here tonight. I think this is truly a rare and unique, but really meaningful experience that we can have with you, although it is online, but it's still very precious. So I just want to say thank you again for your insights and your responses to those questions. And yeah, that's all the questions I have. And I want to now hand it over to all of our participants here. Thank you to all of you guys who were able to make it for the turnout to tonight's event. And this is your chance now to join this conversation and ask Juyeon any questions you have directly. So if you'd like to speak, simply raise your hand and I will call on you. And you can just please start by introducing yourself with your name and where you're joining from right now. If you'd rather type your question, you can also feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll pull a few from there, as well as from the questions that were submitted through the registration form. And our interpreter will translate your questions and responses live, so be sure to stay on the English channel to hear the interpretation. So who would like to ask the first question to our speaker, Juhyun Kim? Don't be shy. Okay, looks like we have a hand up. Grace, can you please unmute yourself and introduce who you are and where you're coming from and your question to Trian?
Hello, everyone. My name is Grace. I'm from Mongolia, and currently I'm a student at Stanford University. And thank you for your insightful story, Mr. Kim. I would like to ask, how do people in North Korea usually get information, especially about modern topic like AI? And what do you think are the main difference between North and South Korea's education system, but like positive and negative sides?
In North Korea, similar to South Korea, they're very sensitive about the global trend. So the technological developments, not well developed, is actually prejudice, because in North Korea, let's say if artificial intelligence is growing globally, they also receive a lot of information on that. But this information that they receive is not done on the individual level, on a personal level, but the government, through government officials living abroad, they provide the information to the scientists in North Korea, meaning that you can't just freely research for information. But let's say if AI is a global trend, if there are issues surrounding AI and developments globally, if someone obtains that information abroad, then they provide that message to the North Korean regime and tries to apply that information that is suitable for the North Korea system. So in North Korea also, um, I am aware that they are also making a lot of investments uh, in related to AI in North Korea as well. When it comes to the education, probably something that North Korea is spending a lot of focus on, but the opportunity for education is not equally given to people throughout North Korea, but it is only uh, emphasized, meaning proper education is only provided to a certain people of certain class. And in order to uh, the the science technology that is needed to justify the North Korean regime, only those kind of things are focused so that the education opportunities are not given to everyone equally, but only for a selected few are given that opportunity. But at least for those selected few, they invest as much as they can. But it is not for all North Korean people.
Wow, thank you so much, Grace, for that question and such an in-depth response, Trion. And just, yeah, that's even more insight that we were able to gain in terms of right how that kind of information is really known and disseminated within North Korea. Um, uh, We've also got a pretty good amount of questions coming from the registration. And there's one that I did want to ask. This is from one of the UCLA CASA leadership that was not able to make it today. Brian asked the question, what was the hardest change to adapt to, not in terms of politics or freedom, but in daily life or cultural expectations? And I see that hand up, and so I will answer that. I'll go to that one after this one, and let's get those hands up from our audience.
So coming to South Korea, um, the the culture and things like culture and food was not as different as I had expected. So it wasn't as shocking. But in South Korea, I what I felt was the fast pace of growth. In North Korea, the information that everyone would usually know, it's not easy for people to access it. Because not everyone has equal amount of information gathered. The information that individuals have, it varies a lot. But in the case for South Korea, whichever topic that they want to know about, they can freely do researches and they can do it also very quickly as well. So people coming for a common kind of idea is much easier, and also famous things many people know commonly. So the speed of development and obtaining information is very quick. So I noticed that even when it comes to things like the social changes, South Koreans are very quick to adapt to it because of the information that they are able to gather.
Okay. Thank you, Brian, for that question. We have Yushin with his hand up. Please unmute yourself and ask your question to our speaker.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Hi, my name is Yushin. I'm from the Seattle area. Thank you, Juhyun, for coming on to speak and to share about your experience and having the courage to do so. I guess my question is really just rooted in curiosity about your experience personally interacting with other North Korean elites around you. And really, like, what is the I guess, general perception, how would you kind of categorize the North Korean elites? Maybe there are some who are closer to the Kim regime, who are more positive, some who are less so, less close, and more critical of the Kim regime. So yeah, I'm curious to hear about your opinion on how you would describe those different groups within the North Korean elites, and then also, I guess, what their perception is. This is a second question, I guess. What is their perception towards the goal of Korean reunification?
So in North Korea, there are different social classes in North Korea. So the so-called elite, among the elite group, there's also different social classes. So back in Kim Il-sung days, um, there are people who fought together with Kim Il-sung during the war, and the children of those families are the top elite, and the next group are the children that come from families that helped build the country of North Korea in terms of their level of devotion towards creating a new country, how much they were able to adapt the Juche ideology, their loyalty towards the Juche ideology. And then there's another uh, social class uh, towards during Kim Jong-il's time, the people based on their level of sacrifice they did for the party, Communist Party. But unlike other countries where there are many different political parties, in North Korea, since there's only one party, it's based on how much loyalty that they show to the Kim family that determines their social class. And when it comes to their perspective on unification, it does change quite often because uh, back in the days, there were people there were claims that uh, whether they observe South Korea or through the Juche ideology to change South Korea, or whether through war that unification needs to happen. But now, recent days, the instead of hope for unification, after unification, they have they have the fear that their power and authority will be um, also divided to the more the working class. So there's that kind of difference in the current leadership. So these people, when they say that the North Korean government says they want to live separately from South Korea, a two-state system, it is not really about promoting peace, but because they fear that unification may threaten their authority and power. That is why they support this two-state system in the Korean Peninsula.
Oh, that's a great question in terms of the how the different elites in North Korea think about the future of the country by reunification, and it's quite interesting to kind of learn that there is that kind of perspective in terms of like if unification does come about, one that leads to a free nation, then what will happen? Yes, to I guess um, the elites in North Korea, their current status and position, and so that is a very interesting perspective. So thank you, Trian, for that answer. We have another hand raised here. Junghyun Kim, please unmute yourself and ask your question to Trian.
Hello. Thank you for sharing. My question is, what kinds of support were most helpful to you after defecting, and how can young people like me who are students help support those who are defecting and fleeing from the North?
After coming to South Korea, although I didn't feel a lot of cultural difference, I did feel the loneliness of family. But because I was lucky enough to come to North Korea together with my family, so that we can support each other in the situation of difficulty. But many defectors, uh, they because of their sometimes their family members are left behind, they also feel that lack of familyness. So although I work at Action for Korea United in a company, um, what the culture that I feel is that that there is a lot of support and love among the peers working even in a company setting, and people like myself and for people like myself, when they come to to South Korea, what's really helpful is not really materialistic help, but more emotional help, because many defectors, one of the first places that they want to go is to receive education, to go to university or an education institute, because they want to learn things that they could not learn in the North. But going to a university or sometimes going abroad to the US, UK, Canada, a lot of people go abroad to study. But when they go abroad, going to study, they also feel that lack of familyness that that they experience in South Korea. So when uh, that if North Korean defectors go abroad to study, also to help them emotionally to settle in that new environment, I think that is also very helpful, especially for those young defectors who study abroad.
Thank you so much for that question, and that ties directly to the really one of the biggest hurdles that North Korean escapees go through when they do resettle in the South. Although they've attained that freedom, it's there is that period of having to adjust in such a high paced society, and so this kind of support that defectors can receive, whether it be education, study abroad, and yeah, even like what Trian was mentioning, that it's quite sad that during the holidays in Korea, like Chuseok, where everyone goes back to their homes to be with their families, it's like where can the North Korean people go, right? And so this kind of support is definitely something that we should really think about. So that the kind of assimilation into society can happen very naturally, can happen very smoothly. Um, we did have a question that came in from this is also from another member from UCLA CASA. This is from Yeonjun. The question is, how has your perspective on Korean unification changed after escaping, if at all? Do you think it's possible to reconcile the political and cultural differences that have accumulated over the many years of division? And what would that process hypothetically look like in your opinion?
So about a year or two after defecting, escaping North Korea, although I thought that unification is needed, I always thought about how can we achieve unification. So I did have kind of a North Korean perspective that even if it means war, that we need to head towards unification. But after looking at the war between Russia and Ukraine and under the Kim Jong-un regime, without any sense of responsibility, sending young North Korean people to uh, military assignments in between the war between Ukraine and Russia. And by witnessing those kind of situations, I felt that unification is something that cannot be done by war, but by simply observing another nation. Because if that is the case, then that would also cause a lot of backlash even after unification is accomplished. Therefore, my perspective on unification, in terms of how unification can be reached, it changed a lot over the years. So at this moment, uh, although politically the dialogue between North Korea and South and North Korea has been stopped, and North Korea is very sensitive about what's happening around the countries surrounding North Korea. They don't want to communicate with South Korea government, but these things that are happening, I don't think it will be a long-term situation because many of the power struggle that's surrounding the surrounding nations and then the tensions between the US and Russia has North Korea is promoting themselves to be on Russia's side. But this is just kind of a short-term situation because if the communication between North and South Korea, there is not much North Korea can do. North Korea only when they have a active dialogue with South Korea, that's when they received a lot of economic support. So the dialogue with South Korea, when that becomes normal, that's when the North Korean economy was also in a better state. That is why more short term, this kind of political struggles are happening in the surrounding countries in the Korean Peninsula. But although South Korea is lending their hands to North Korea more recently, um, North Korea, I feel that they will also at some point will grab South Korea's hand to engage in a more active dialogue.
Yes, great question from Yeonjun. And thank you so much for your insight and opinion on that, Juhyun. And I think that's something to really think about in terms of like hypothetically, yeah, what would that process look like? You know, in terms of you know moving towards unification, considering that for the past 80 years we've seen this long period of time where now North and South Korea, which were originally one nation, one country, is it's become totally different countries in terms of their economics, their political systems, how they govern, and so really to be able to start with what is at the root of all Korean people. What is it that they share in terms of identity and heritage? From there, if we're then able to move forward in any kind of whether it's dialogue or whether it's any kind of agreement, I do believe it must really start from that kind of starting point. And so, but yes, thank you so much for that response. We're starting to run out of time, and so we'll have a couple more questions that will be asked. We have a hand raised here in the Zoom meeting. Martin, please unmute yourself and ask your question to our speaker.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm from Chicago, and I've always been thinking in my life, actually, a long time about this situation in Korea. It's been a part of my way of thinking. I'm interested to know if I have experienced here some defectors that were working in my company, and they showed me clearly they still had a fear that they would have reprisals from the North Korean government against their family who stayed behind in North Korea. And I wanted to know if that is still an issue for defectors. And the other question I have is, is family life in North Korea as it is today relatively stronger than it is in the South, where the family unit kind of is starting to break down?
So in North, although I came with my parents, all of the other my family members are still in North Korea. So through Chinese brokers, we are able to communicate with them. And based on what we found out in North Korea, because also there are a lot of defectors, North Korea is not able to control every single family of these defector families. So in cases where uh, sometimes, although they many families still maintain their life, maybe they don't get like a promotion or earn more, but they are able to maintain their lifestyle. But in North Korea's case, uh, the worse the economic situation is, the family situation also becomes worse. So right now, each family, they're very busy making a living. So in terms of taking care of each other becomes uh, very difficult. So when I was young, even if there was a famine and uh, I saw a lot of kind of large families, family of five, six people, always gathering together during holidays. But more and more as time goes by, even it seems like things are even worse than the 1994 Great Famine. So that kind of family values are not as strong. There isn't a lot of communication between the family members, although families may vary. But the worse the economic situation is, the trust level of family members is also decreasing in North Korea.
Wow. Yeah, that is a quite unfortunate and sad situation. And but but yeah, I mean, it is really the more of a reason why this is an issue that we should all of us care about. Whether we feel like it directly applies or resonates with us, it is a humanitarian issue, one where we have human beings, the lives of human beings, becoming more and more, difficult, as Juno was explaining, that this could be a period of time economically that's even more difficult than it was during the 1990s Great Famine. And so, yes, more so the reason why we should really care. So, thank you for your response and for that question, Martin. We have one last question left. This is a question that came in from the registration. It's from Ellen Myung. Her question is, what is the initiative or accomplishment that you are most proud of through your work with AKU? And we will close the Q&A with that question.
I want to, as I shared before, I was part of the planning of the uh, 80th anniversary Han River Korean Dream Festival. This festival was really about preparing together with the Korean people. And I thought that because it was such a grand scale event, I felt that I wasn't sure if having such event was really possible. But unlike my concern, it was very successful, and the people that were involved were very active because with the Han River in the background, the active participation from Korean citizens, it's not something that happened often. So taking part of such important and big project, I was proud of it. And because it was not something that was forced, but really done voluntarily by the citizens, it made the event more fruitful. And by active communication among the Korean people, of the organizers, it really made the event more fruitful. So through my AKU activities that I participated in, is that this citizen-led grassroots movement is something that we should all be proud of.
Hey, thank you so much, Alan, for that question, and Julian for your response. And very fortunate for me as well. I was also able to witness and attend the Korean Dream Han River Festival in commemoration of the 80th anniversary of Liberation Day this past August. And just to just to also follow up with what Julian was saying, it was truly amazing. Seeing that many South Korean citizens come on that day, with the Han River in the background, as she was saying, and the Han River really being very symbolic. At the time of the 1970s, 80s miracle on the Han River, that really brought an economic boom to South Korea. That event really positioned the Han River as one where both North and South meet together, right? Because there's the North Han River as well as the South Han River, and the fact that all those people came to show up and calling for the reunification of their homeland, to build a nation that can shine a light to the rest of the world, was truly inspirational. And so, yeah, that is definitely something that I'm sure Julian is very, very proud of to be part of. And so thank you, Julian, for your efforts in this ongoing work to bring about peace, lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula. So thank you so much. And we will wrap it up there for Q&A. I just want to thank everyone here for all your thoughtful questions, everyone who submitted questions through the chat, registration, live here on the Zoom call. And most of all, thank you, Julian, for taking the time to provide your sincere and really heartfelt answers to each of them. And I'm sure we were all able to learn so much and take in a lot and think about what unification means, not just for the Korean people, but also for the rest of the world. So we'll wrap it up for Q&A there. And before you guys go, I just want to ask that you stay still. We want to take a group photo with all of you here because today is such a special occasion where we're here with Julian, and so we'd like to take a commemorative photo. If your camera isn't on, now is the time. We'd love to see your faces to remember this day. And so I'd like to give everyone just a few seconds to turn on your cameras so that we can create a really awesome photo with all of you here. So take a few moments to turn on cameras. Okay, Lily, could you help take the photo for us?
Yes, I'll take the photo in 3, 2, 1.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And as we now wrap up our event tonight, there's going to be a closing poll that will pop up on your screens. This is a time to kind of reflect on today's event, asking, what did you learn, as well as what topics you'd be interested in learning more about. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to fill this out. I'll play some background music for you guys. Okay, we'll have maybe 30 more seconds for everyone to complete those questions. All right, I think we got most submissions. So thank you for filling the poll out. And also the song that you heard in the background here, but also in the beginning, is the new Korean Dream song, Korean Dream, Come O Glorious Light, that was put out this past year in commemoration of the 80th anniversary of Korean Liberation Day. And as part of the ongoing campaign, 1K Global campaign to promote the Korean dream through music and culture. So if you're interested, you can also check that out on YouTube. But yes, thank you for filling those out. And yeah, I hope that as you guys were filling that out in terms of what you were learning, able to take that time to kind of, think about today, what you're able to learn, and yeah, like really the takeaways from it. And so thank you for that. And with that, we will conclude our event, Korean Dream, Leading the Next Generation Toward Reunification. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to our guest speaker, Ms. Juyeon Kim, for joining us from South Korea and sharing your personal testimony, your experiences, your deep insights with all of us here tonight. So thank you so much, Juyeon, for being here and for spending this time with us. Big thanks also to Link UCLA and UCLA CASA for co-organizing this event together with us, as well as to Mr. Chung Duk Yu for providing live interpretation throughout the entire event. And finally, I want to thank all of you guys here for making it out this evening. If you're in the US this evening, also a lot of you are going to school, so taking this time to listen to Juyeon's story, be part of this movement, be part of this conversation. And we hope that through this, we can continue to grow this, people-led movement, this student movement, to realize the Korean dream, a free and unified Korea. So as you leave the Zoom room, please keep an eye out for the post-event survey that's gonna show up. We'd love to hear your thoughts as we move forward. And yes, I wish you all the best and hope to see you again soon. Good night, everyone.